I'd like to go ahead and open the meeting. It's a little after 7. I think we're all set. We've got the recording on, in accordance with all the rules and regulations and things like that. Thank you all for coming out. I think what we have here, plus the absentee ballots that looks like have come in, we'll have a quorum as far as being able to address the budget, so that's a good thing. We won't have to delay that for another 3 months. Okay, first order of business will be to approve the minutes. You have the minutes in your package here from the last regular membership meeting, which was held on March 27th. So if there's any questions or discussion on those, or do I have a motion to approve them? Second from?
I'll second.
You got a second, okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Approve the minutes. Okay, a few remarks, and then we'll have some more discussion about a couple other things later, but a couple things I wanted to mention is that we've had a couple new folks that have joined in very important positions here for the community. One is Sal Kaza, who has come in and stepped in and filled some really big shoes, and that was Gary Heel, who for a long time has been our roads committee, roads and operations committee leader, committee chairman. Gary's done an outstanding job. He's the guy who oftentimes is the one who decides about snow plowing or tree removal or road clearing or road maintenance and so forth. So he's done a great job. Sal is another community person who's very interested in that same subject area. And Sal has stepped in to volunteer to lead that. So he's not able to be here tonight, but we're standing on front of another meeting here, one of these days in the meeting. But he'll be dealing with me and with Rhea as far as setting up the road maintenance and so forth. The other important position is the person who actually, and this is primarily for the paving, but also applies to some of the other major construction projects, such as, if we have to go in and replace a culvert or do major shoulder repair or something like that. We typically contract that out, and we've had Jeff McDonald, who's for several years has basically been a consultant to the community, a paid consultant. But he's the one who's put together the road schedule. He does all the work to put the bids out, evaluate the bids, evaluate and supervise the paving and other major maintenance. And Jeff has decided that it's more than time to retire. He plunked it for a while, but then he decided he needed to pass it, and so he's kind of stepped down. But we've got a good replacement coming in. His name is Chris Franklin. Chris also, like Jeff, has worked for the county in the county public works area. He's got full permission from the county to be able to consult for us on major road projects. So Chris will be stepping in and filling Jeff's shoes. Jeff has agreed to help transition that over to him, and so I think that's all going to work out well. And they'll be working, one of the major things we'll be working on our next paving schedule, which will probably start in the September timeframe. All right. That's another big thing you mentioned. You probably have seen signs, you've seen newsletters, you've seen announcements from Shore Point Club if you belong to that. But on the 3rd of July, which is Saturday, we're going to go ahead and have our traditional Drum Point Day to celebrate Independence Day. We decided not to do it on the 4th because, for a few reasons. One, they had a band available and they could come in and entertain us on the 3rd. At the time that we set this up, there was going to be no fireworks anyway. And so we decided to go ahead and do it on the 3rd. And that kind of locked us in as far as the date. And then later on, and you probably if you follow Facebook or any of the other local stuff, you probably have seen that there's a young guy that's really been energetic and has crowdsourced enough funding, and they found the fireworks purveyor that could do it in time, and the Solomon Business Association's worked with them, and I guess they're going to go ahead and try to have the fireworks. As far as I've heard, it's on. But that's going to be on the 4th. So we're going to go ahead and do our event on the 3rd. It'll be here at the club. It'll run from 2 to 7. We'll start off with the games for the kids or adults or anybody who wants to play. We're going to have, we're decided rather than, this time we really didn't know about the restrictions on COVID and stuff, so we decided to just go ahead and have the food catered in, most of it anyway. So Boomerangs will be bringing in barbecue for the picnic. It'll be free to all the residents and the club members. So Boomerangs will bring in barbecue. We'll cook up some hot dogs and some veggie burgers for people that are inclined that way, or for kids or whatever. And we'll have the trimmings and everything to go with it. So I hope you come out. It's 2 to 7. The food will be like 3 to 5, and 5 to 8. 5 to 8, I think, is the band, or 5 to 7. It's the group called Deanna Does. I haven't seen her, but a lot of people like her. So it should be a fun day, and hope folks can make it out. Bring your, one thing to do though, since it is a joint thing, and we're using the facility here, bring your hang tag, or nothing else, bring something that shows that you have an address here in the community. Try to bring your hang tag you have for the beach or the other community. We'll have a list, but it just slows things down coming in the gate. There will be people checking in. That's about all I have. Rhea, did you have anything else you wanted me to say?
I'm not gonna.
Okay.
It's been a long day, so there might have been something.
Yeah, okay. All right. Any questions for me? We'll cover a couple other things here as we go along. So I'd like to move into the, well, I keep forgetting to do this. I think the board ought to introduce ourselves, because there are some new faces here, and we ought to tell them who we are. Let's start down with Asha.
I'm Asha Andreas. I've been here for a couple of years. I'm Bonnie Blaze. I've been here since 2006.
Tony Spikowskis, I've been doing this for a while.
Mike Snap, I got tricked by Tony to be here. We've lived in the community, much like my wife Carol. We've lived in the community since '99.
I'm Jack Andre, we've lived here since '98.
Janice Waltwood retired 10 years ago here, but have lived, my husband's family has lived here since 1980.
I'm Maria. I've been here forever.
And she's not escaping either.
All right, wait a
Put
minute.
a chain around her ankle. Okay, so run through the committee reports, although it's not really a committee. From the office perspective, do you have anything you want to mention?
No, I just, the welcome committee, I would do that before.
Yeah.
Do that now. We've given out, not since October of 2017, which is when we began this welcome committee, given out 95 welcome buckets, which I think is really good. 15 just since the last meeting, and 3 today. It's been a busy 2 or 3 months with home sales. It's unbelievable right now. I should have waited to sell my house. I could have made it. But that's different. That's another subject. Asha and Asha's down there and Jen assemble the buckets. Many of you know, Cindy Andre, Jack's wife, gathers all the goods, and most of them anyway, and including wine and snacks and so on. It's been quite successful. The people are very happy when you hand them the bucket. They're like, wow, that's nice, kind of thing. And then it serves the main reason that we started it, which is for me to get contact information for people. So it's been a really good thing I think that we've done, so.
Is it retroactive?
No.
Do I get a 99 bottle of wine?
No.
No?
Not the first time that's been used.
Oh, okay.
Good try.
But it is, you know, Cindy was one of the people that really thought about this, and we have pitched in, and Asha, and like we had said, it's been very successful. People really seem to appreciate it. We've gotten a lot of nice comments back on it. All right, we don't have a roads person here. Do you have anything that you want to mention about that? Or?
I think that it should be mentioned that other than just routine items, there's a project on Lake Terrace that was a major replacement for stormwater management. The county told us we needed, and actually it was Chris Franklin who sent us a letter saying that this needed to be done. Carl Bowen did that work. I think it was around 6,000, I don't remember. And then we also replaced a pipe on Surf near the footbridge. And Great Mills did that. Jeff McDonald oversaw it, even though he wasn't technically working for us anymore. And that was another, I don't know, 6,000 or 7,000. I don't know. Between the two, it's about $12,000. So.
But he saved us a lot of money on that.
Yes.
Because, we had a couple other bids quite a bit higher. Okay, if you see something around the community you think we need to address and we're not addressing, call the office and let us know and we'll look into it. Bonnie and Environmental Committee.
Yes, as many of you know, because it's been occasionally in the newsletter, we have this invasive species called Phragmites, which is something that the state of Maryland wants us to get rid of throughout the state. It goes into it's very fast growing, it goes into the waterways and disrupts the flora and fauna. So we've been treating our Phragmites on the common property since 2017, I think that was the first year. And I think we're in our 5th year now. A lot of it's been eradicated, but it's the kind of plant that you have to keep at it every year. You get most of it, and then next year there's a lot that comes back and you have to keep at it. So I did a survey today and took pictures to send to our contractor, who's a specialist in invasive species eradication. And we're doing pretty well overall. That's all I have about that. Like I say, we're in our 5th year of it now. The other thing too is Ginny Rice, who was not here tonight, she has an idea for a volunteer group that would remove English ivy from the non-private areas in Gun Point because it's also invasive and it climbs up trees and so forth. So she talked very seriously about getting this going this fall after tick season because some of these lots are very dense and she talked to somebody who works on it at a higher level throughout the communities and he just advised waiting. Now she's calling this, I think they call it the Ivy League, and she's looking for volunteers, people that will come out and help. And it's going to be kind of, when we start off, it's going to be really a tough job because this stuff is so dense and so widespread. I actually love it, but you know, it's a bad thing. So anyhow, if anybody is interested in helping Ginny and volunteering, I know she'd be thrilled to get some people that would help chip away at this. We don't even know the extent of it, I don't think. We just know it's everywhere.
Well, no, it's just, I mean, I'm sure you've seen lots and lots of our trees here in the community that
They're just being overtaken.
choked with ivy, growing all the way up into the crown. This Ivy League apparently has a technique that's not too hateful. They use heavy clippers or loppers, and basically just they girdle the tree at like chest height. So it's something you don't have to get down on your hands and knees and dig it out. They just cut this stuff and just let it naturally die in the tree, and apparently that doesn't hurt the tree anymore. It may look a little bad for a little while until it dries up and away, but it's better than having the trees completely choked.
But it'll be something probably has to be done periodically, yearly, because
Oh, yeah.
the stuff that's on the ground will
Yeah,
come back and
it'll
grow up.
grow, but,
But she's looking for volunteers, so anybody that's interested, please.
yeah, so we'll have an announcement that'll go out when we get ready to start it.
Mhm.
If anybody's interested in doing that, and if you, we encourage you if you want to do it in your own property. as
Yeah,
well.
that's true, yeah. But we're just limited to the non-private property,
Yeah,
but
we'll
there's
just,
plenty of that.
we'll do it on the right of way and on other club property.
Jenny is my neighbor, and she's convinced me to do all the trees in my yard.
Good, yay.
It was actually pretty simple. I'm on Deer Drive, if you're driving by, you can see dead ivy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It works really well, it takes a couple minutes.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
good.
good.
That's encouraging.
Okay.
That's all I got.
All right. We don't have a safety committee person here. There hasn't been anything that's really come up. I know that they've been in the process of trying to transition a little bit of this over to a new person and doing an inventory of what we have at the club, our communications gear and that kind of thing. But, let's see, we already had welcoming, I'll be planning in a minute. Jack, you're on to talk about money.
Well, our fiscal year begins July 1st, so we're up at the end of our budget this year. Our finance committee, thanks to members of the board, Mike Chacomas, who lives over on Bay Drive, who participated in the finance committee to develop proposed FY22 budget. And you'll see a copy of that in the papers that you received. It looks pretty much like the budget from last year. Very little change. Some increases because we went over budget and professional fees this year, so we raised that this year. So we don't have to go back to the membership to get approval for going over budget and that. Everything else, I think you'll see pretty much tracks last year. This will include this budget we propose capital projects for this coming year. Two important ones are the beach, to do something with the beach. Give us, we decide, membership decides to go ahead and do that, and have some money to start that with. And then some money put aside for possibly buying a lot across the street from the drum plane office. It might go out for sale. Won't hurt, and it should go for very, very little money. So, if it became available, we'd have to be prepared just in case. Again, that would be, I think when that happens, if it happens, we have to go back to the membership and the final decision will come from you. But if you decide to do it, you want to have a little bit of money there, just in case the community wants to. Yes?
What's the purpose of buying a lot that can't perk? I don't know what you want.
Well, we would use it as a community area. We do the twice a year when there's no COVID. We have drum point cleanup days there.
Okay.
We park there sometimes. The person that owns it lets us do that. So community activities like
Thank you.
Is there some expense, I don't know how to phrase this, I know this beach erosion problem arises, and that potentially could be a real can of worms as far as finances. Do we have some kind of handle on that? I mean, update?
I'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay, so in other words, you don't have a large major expense looming that you may have to scramble for funds and adjust it. In other words, I'm talking like multi-million-dollar
Well, it won't be
abatement
open.
and all that.
Nothing,
This whole place
nothing
ain't
we
worth
know,
it.
nothing we know about right now. We have a fair amount of reserve, for smaller emergencies. I'll talk about the beach erosion. That could be a major expense, and you're right. If it is, then we have to address that, how we would fund that. And there's some options. We're just beginning to explore, but that would have to be done. And again, just kind of like the lot, if I talk about, I guess I can go ahead and start that.
Do you want to vote for the budget first?
I don't want to vote on the budget until we discuss
I'm sorry.
stuff, and then we can vote
Yeah,
on it.
that makes sense.
If people feel like
Yeah.
they need to, they want to amend it or something like that, then we can discuss that. But I want to go over the beach.
Yeah, of course, I will.
First off, let's see if we can make this thing work. Not very useful thing. Whatever brand this is, I will never buy it. Okay, for those of you who were here last time, you may remember this picture. If you weren't, this is our community beach. This is the old Overlook Drive. Used to come down through here and around this way. This was part of the road bed and then ended up here. And then it was washed out by Isabel or some storm. So this is our beach. This is what it looks like sometimes. Part of this road bed is very exposed. Sometimes we get a lot of asphalt down along here. Sometimes that goes away. Right now it's been pretty good. But we still have this, and we are losing the beach. I mean, it's being slowly eroded. It's a natural thing. But what we talked to this engineering firm down in Virginia that's done lots of the design work for beach projects over on the base, Asbury, at Patterson Park, and other places, including up the Potomac at Swan Point, where they've got a several kilometer area of beach preservation. And they've done that using two primary methods, one being breakwater off of the shoreline, and then fill in behind that with sand, and then let more sand to creep behind there. The only problem with that is that does have an effect downstream or down current, which would be into the community, the club property. And they don't have the, finances and the solidarity yet to address that. So that's one thing that could be done. And their original proposal to us was think about a breakwater, and then think about what they call a spur. What some people, a jetty would tend to go more perpendicular to the shoreline. Spur is more of an angle, and that allows accretion behind the spur. It does require some fill to get it going, but what you do, you can get some accretion of sand along in here and still preserve a fair amount of the beach without affecting the club property to any great extent. So that's what we were looking at. The only problem here again is this affects the club, And this affects our pocketbook because you're probably looking at anywhere from $200,000 to $250,000 for a complete project like that. So that's, yes.
I just want to comment that if it was done as that diagram, that would also help the club property because right there where that fence is, I'm not sure if anybody's noticed, but it has went back a foot just since last year of them putting up the wooden fence. So that would actually help where that water comes in and then takes it back out.
You're talking about the breakwater?
Yes.
Well, it would, but again, it's a lot more money and we'd have to get
Right.
them to agree with it and hopefully maybe come up with some of the
Right.
money. But we can, I'll show you in a minute, what we've done, basically they've modified their proposal to take away this for now.
Mhm.
That may be something downstream that we want to address, either with us, ourselves, or with the club. But they've concentrated more on this structure.
Question.
Yeah.
When Kurt Larson was here, he talked about the fact that the beach is really only about 1.5 to 2 feet above sea level at this time. 1.6, I think, is the number he used. A foot, 6 inches, 18 inches. My question is, if we spend $250,000 to put in that spur net, with the rise of sea level as predicted by climate change, that will have no bearing on it. We could wind up having the bay and the lake meet regardless of what we do. Is that true?
That's possible. But
That's a lot of money.
that level that Kurt's talking about varies depending on what database you look at. The climate models also vary. So that's somewhat uncertain. But you're right. I mean, if sea level continues to rise. But our thought was at least it continues to, the more we add in here, the more it's going to take it to, the more effort it will take for the bay to actually start to transgress the move across there. So,
Mark, may I make a comment?
say,
May I make a comment?
yes,
One of the things in discussing things with Kurt is no one has ever talked about the technology innovations that are happening in the next 30 years. So these things aren't static at this point in time. And there's going to be, think about 30 years ago and the technology innovations that occurred in that time, with this being such an important issue. I am very certain of the technology improvements and innovations going forward that we can't even imagine. So you can't count on it, but you can't count on the models either.
The gentleman that said that the bay was a large bathtub. In essence, that's really what it is a large bathtub that gets filled by the Susquehanna and other rivers. So if that water level rises, the land isn't rising, so it's going to take over.
Well, we don't know that what the rate of that level of rise is, for one thing.
the worst,
And there are a lot of models that disagree with that.
the worst case models, you're right. In 30 years, it could, according to, if you believe the worst case models, it could start coming across here at higher tides and breach this. But in 30 years, if we continue this, at least the beach will continue to build down towards the point, and it's, we're going to have more there for it to submerge. So, it's uncertain. You're right. I mean, it's a
Where
concern.
do they predict that the sand that needs to accrete there is coming from? Up the bay?
No, a lot of this is going to be brought in to get it going.
But okay, once you start bringing it in, it's going to need to be replenishing itself.
Yes, and that's something we're working with them right now. Let me emphasize that right now, we're not discussing the approval of the final project. Right now, we're discussing plans to basically develop an architecture for this, and then address questions like that. How much do we have to replenish? How often?
But other than, say, replenishment, I'm talking about where erosion is a natural process. For it to erode from someplace, it has to accrete from somewhere else. They said that and Kurt Larson was saying in his presentation, that land or sand coming from Calvert Cliffs had been accreting down here, and now that they are taking measures to stop that from occurring, what is going to supply this? Asbury took down the dirt, I understand, that was there and used that dirt as its source of sand. I mean, there has to be a source for the erosion to replenish in other places.
Well, some of it's natural, and Kurt, I spent some more time with Kurt going over this. I wish he'd have been here tonight, but the model that he uses basically is it's a spiral effect. Comes around the structure like this, and if you do nothing, you're going to get you may get some erosion down in this area, but you get some natural accretion behind here. And if you add sand to that, then that will start to develop this, and I'll show you in a minute a picture of where.
He explained it to us at the board, at the Drum Point Club board meeting, and he was saying, in essence, Cove Point is a perfect example. The Cove Point Lighthouse is that, what did you call it, spur,
Yeah.
okay? And below Cove Point, there is a huge curve. Diamond Head in Hawaii. Below it is Waikiki Beach.
Right.
That arc is a mathematical prediction of
Right.
erosion,
Right.
and it can't be avoided.
Well, it can be mitigated, put it that way. The natural effect, if you do nothing, you're right.
Create all of those.
But if you can, and I'll show you how it works, you can add to this back in here. It will extend the fetch of the sand down along the beach and augment and serve the beach. But yeah, there's a lot of effects going on. It's not a simple solution. And we will be getting more information to bring before the community here to help you make that decision and we ultimately get to it. Because we're going to have some membership to it. Once we get the plans and the costs and everything laid down where we know what we're dealing with, then that'll come back before the community for approval. The board is not going to do this on our own. Tony?
Not a scientific thought, but an idea. If we do nothing, that beach disappears.
Yes.
We
It's
don't know
gonna
how long
disappear.
from now, but it disappears. If we do something, we hold off the inevitable for a little bit. On the other hand, models are very rarely accurate. They point out interesting facts, but they're very rarely accurate. And so saying, oh, the model says this is going to happen, maybe, maybe not. Just a thought.
Okay. All right. User-friendly. This, may have shown this last time, but I know more about it now. This is the Virginia Institute of Marine Science down at Gloucester Point. Gloucester Point is down here, and it's kind of like Cove Point. Similar marine and geologic situation. They had put a breakwater in up here, which really, as you see, it basically stops anything from happening there. So that's not always the best solution. But what they did here essentially is that same type of spur that they built off the point here, and then they brought more sand in to get it started. And if I had a time series, Kurt actually gave me some good data on this and a good time series. And at first, there was some actual erosion of this area down here. But as they continued to put sand in there, and it began to level this out, And if I had the whole picture, that's a fairly uniform beach width all the way down to the point. And I would guess the point is probably a kilometer or so from this. So it did preserve it, and it did hold that beach in there. Now, key questions though are, like you said, what does it take to replenish this? How often do you have to replenish it? What's the life cycle cost of this thing? I mean, are we going in for $100,000 and then looking at annual costs of $25,000 to maintain it? And that may not be a wise solution. So those are the kind of things we need to learn more about. And I've got questions to the contractor now on just those kind of things. What's the replenishment cycle? What's the cost of the replenishment? How long is that? How often do we have to do it, and how long does it last before you get to a steady state situation like this?
I guess my big question is, this contractor have relations with the state? I mean, will the state approve this plan?
Well, who knows? But we did actually meet with one of the state engineers or state permitting guys early on before we even contracted these guys.
Okay.
He knows them, they work with him. He said he thinks this kind of thing would get approved.
Okay, so then that's
As long as you comply with some of the things like shoreline preservation and planning. A lot of the plans that they're providing us do include a lot of those aspects. So I think the state will approve it. I think the county eventually will. I don't think that's an issue. They've worked with Maryland, Virginia. They know the process well. Yes.
Do the adjoining landowners have to approve, sign
Well,
off on it?
if it affects them, but I'll show you. Well, any questions up more on this? This is basically just a physical model of what we're dealing with. I know this is probably hard to scoot up if you need to, but okay, our property line is right here. This property belongs to Brooke Edinger. This is our beach here, and this is approximately the club down. So what they're addressing now is the spur. It's a little more angle back towards the beach to try to hold all this in. Some of this is our current beach, some of it's going to be added to try to preserve and enhance the spiral effect that Kurt said we're going to get. We want. I mean, that's physics. So he's right about that. The question is, what's the extent of it? So that would be it. And then you can't read it, but there's a description of shore plantings to help us hold the beach along here, up above the water line, so it doesn't affect the usable area of the beach. It would either cover or we remove that asphalt back in here, include removing some of the loose asphalt that's down in this area. But I think overall it could work, and as long as we start understanding the other replenishment, life cycle cost, longevity, and those kind of things. But, so where we're at now is we've got this plan, we had funded that. The next steps really are to refine the plan and get the permits. The reason I'm suggesting permits is that those are good for at least 3 years to start with and can be extended. If we don't get the permits now, then we're dealing with that downstream, whatever we get, if and when we decide to do something else. So if we get the permits, that'll hold us for a while. It'll prevent us from having to deal with maybe a tougher situation later. Unlike the simple county permits that are big, like if you want to put a dock in, it's a flat $750 for a county structure. But when you do something like this in the waterway, you have to deal with the state and the Corps of Engineers. That's a more complicated permitting process that could cost anywhere from $500 to $5,000.
It's slow.
Yeah. So what we propose in the budget, we basically put we put a $2,000 wedge in for, just to complete the plan and answer more questions and stuff. And then we put in a $5,000 wedge for permits. So that's what I'm recommending in the budget. It's a total of $7,000, like Tony mentioned in there, for capital improvements dealing with the beach. So the budget, as far as approving the budget, like Tony said, I think our normal operating budget is pretty stable. We understand it really well. There's enough wedge in there for snow removal and all the what-ifs that can happen to us over the next year. We won't be doing, we know what the STD, the Special Task District funding is. That's set. We know what that is. We know what the state part is. And that will come up again. We start that process next year to affect the STD that will start in 23. So we're stable for 22. So basically what we're saying in here is we've got a wedge in there for $7,000 for this, $5,000 in case that property comes up. Both of these, before they would go beyond that, would require community approval, membership approval, especially buying that lot. So approving this now doesn't do anything about approving the purchase of the lot. It doesn't say anything about approving the eventual $100,000 or $150,000 to do whatever we decide to do here. All we're saying is that if you approve this, it'll get us to the next step to get permits and do more planning. If you can amend that, you can amend the budget if you want. You can amend the motion. First off, we would need a motion to approve the budget.
May I ask one more question?
Yeah.
I'm sorry to be asked. I've dealt with peer permits and they're painful. There's our neighbor that's adjacent to that. Does anybody talk to him about this?
Well, in fact,
he could stop this.
he could, but he actually wants something like this.
It would be in his best interest.
Yeah.
That's why I'm just asking.
Right. I mean, he's probably going to gain some in here, although I don't know. This is all riprap, so I'm not sure what gaining it means a whole lot to him. But he was actually, he approached us about putting a jetty out here, which could adversely affect us.
Right.
So I think he's talked to this contractor. I think he believes that, this will be a good compromise. He wants to preserve the beach. He likes to preserve the ability.
That's good.
So I think we're okay. We had there's an anecdote. You've been passing out surveys, right?
I have.
Yeah, we both have,
So we've got our commander-in-chief of the beach has been passing out surveys.
Yes.
To get ideas about what you like or don't like about the beach. And I got one tonight,
we have another one, so we got one now.
and it basically says, I'll vote for anything that preserves this because I'm afraid it's going to be gone. Now, I think she's jumping ahead a little bit too much, but still, her point is, it's an important community resource, and we ought to think about what we can do about it.
Can I just stand up and say a couple of things
Sure.
real quick? I have been head of the beach patrol for the past 2 years now. I've had the opportunity to
Can
speak
you
to,
give them your name?
my name is Shirley B. I've had the opportunity to speak to many community members, and I think the one main thing that we can come in common with is our community beach is just as important as the club beach. And as we're standing there guarding our little piece of community beach, we see also things happening to the club beach. So if there's something that we can do to bring it a little bit together, then we can help both sides. Because right now, we're steadily this year keeping people without tags out of our community beach and out of y'all's beach. We've been chasing away boats that have been docking on the club beach. 2 jet skis doing wheelies and, well, I say wheelies, but doing in circles right in the water, not even 20 feet from our beach. All of that affects not only the erosion, not only the nature, but all of this affects what's going to happen and what's going on. When you walk down the public beach, when you just cross over, the change within the year that has happened from the erosion. Now, somebody was nice enough to put up a barbed wire fence last year, which now is all throughout both sides of the beaches.
Are we able to
Every
clean that up?
day, I go down there and pick up barbed wire.
Yeah.
I pick up clippings of fences. So when we're down there doing our community beach patrol, we're cleaning up the beach. We're making sure people are happy. We're making sure we talk to the community. We're getting feedback. We're getting feedback from the local neighbors. The one adjacent neighbor that you were concerned of, him and his wife are all for it. They were talking to us last year about it. So that's why this year I said I'm handing out the surveys, because everybody's voice counts and not everybody can come to the meetings. Hopefully everybody does the absentee ballot, but we also have people on top of grants that can be formed in which the licensing is really going to be the first step in order to even prove to the grant people that we're serious about helping our community beach. We also have community members that are willing to chip in out of their pocket to help save the community beach, because it's not just the people that have lived here for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. It's the people that have lived here for 30 years plus that have family coming back and reliving their childhood. I have heard so many wonderful stories of families coming back. Oh, my great-grandmother lived here and now we come back every year. So it's really an emotional part. That community beach has really an emotional piece to Drum Point. And it's just nice if we could do something to help it, plus the club. That's all.
Thank you. Bonnie, did you have something?
Yeah, just briefly, and I say this over and over again, so you're probably sick of hearing it, but for those who don't know, that property is valued at about $91,000, I think. in our book.
Yeah.
It's an arbitrary number.
So it's an arbitrary number, but, and so if we did nothing and lost it, we've lost the value.
I think it's it's a valuable community amenity that has at least some indirect relationship to your property value, so. Now, let me just say something a little bit about funding. You bring up a good point. At some point, you'd like to go and figure out how you pay for this, if it's approved. We're working with the state. They haven't been real responsive, but there is a program with the state for no-interest loans for this shoreline preservation kind of effort. We're working with them. We will plan to at least bring it up to the county when we bring up the special tax district next year. That would be another way of funding it. It would affect everybody, but at least it's a way to do it and spread it out over time and over a lot, individual people. So that's an option. That would have to be, that'll come before the community. Community has a say in the STD, so that's another. We have another input on that. We're looking at how much reserve we have, and we'll have to make decisions on whether we put this out as whether it's covered by things like the loan or the STD, or whether we put out a general assessment or we raise the management fees. There are different ways to do it. And that'll all be coming. We don't have all the details yet. But you'll have a say in all that. Any questions?
Not a question. I'd like to move that we approve the budget as written. Are we ready for that?
You're welcome to make a motion anytime you want. Okay, we have a motion to approve the budget as presented.
I think that's
I think,
Yeah,
yeah,
another
on there.
I guess, and maybe I'm just not hearing right, or I just want to clarify, I guess, because you've talked about getting another survey or getting another opinion about what should be done or an alternative to that or something.
No, not, if I did, I'd maybe I'm not getting myself clear. We have this, we've already done a survey.
Okay.
We've already done the official survey that will go in, the application for permits and so forth. The thing is maybe a little bit up in the air is the answer to some of these questions, like how often do we have to replenish the sand? How long do we have to go through that process? So we have to get a handle on those life costs.
And what you presented, but then you said there's a modified version of that. You showed us a picture.
No, what I showed you was, at first was the original proposal, which had both a breakwater and
Right.
a spur.
Okay.
And then, because of the impacts on the club and their non-readiness to really get involved in it, and we figured the low-hanging fruit was the spur.
So that's what
If we
you,
started with that, that would start to replenish the beach as we know it now. Breakwater would probably help, but it's going to have more impact on the club, and we're not ready to address that yet. So right now, I think we're dealing with a proposal that would just include the spur. And then,
and when you talk about getting permits, it's for the spur.
yes.
Just a quick question, has anyone been around here long enough, going back, that they've ever dredged out here at the mouth of the Patuxent? Has that ever occurred?
Not to my knowledge.
Because that would be beautiful to have the spoils pumped back
Well,
out.
yeah, but that channel is,
I know it's a quite
deep
deep
enough,
water
as far as I
channel.
know.
Not on the point, it's really shallow.
Yeah, but whenever there's dredging, you
You talking
want to
about
go,
Drum
hey,
Point?
hey, pump it over here.
Yeah. Are you talking about Drum Point being shallow?
Well, the actual
Right.
point.
Yeah, but you
It's
know how
40
fast it
feet
drops
on the other
off?
side.
65 feet of water.
Still pretty shallow.
Yeah, but it drops off to 45 feet.
Well, I guess
not more.
That's where you dredge.
Yeah, very short distance, so. No, I don't know. I mean, I don't know the answer to that, but in my knowledge is they haven't. I think that was why the Navy chose that place to bring the big ships in and build a high bridge, so they could bring ships into what's now the recreation center for intelligence and exploitation and other things that they did. Okay, we had a motion,
Gentleman made a motion.
yeah, we have a motion on the floor to approve the budget.
Second motion.
We have a second. Let's have a show of hands. All in favor of approving the budget? Opposed? Okay, passes unanimously.
He's busy. Okay.
Thank you. Okay,
I'll look at
Well, we're gonna look at the, let's take those things, sure.
Just make sure they're
Oh, yeah,
all,
yes.
no.
Yeah.
Because there's 15.
so while you're doing that, are there any other public comments or questions or? Okay, I think
There's
we're
a
supposed to
question
approve-
over there. Actually, I have a question, but I might need to take it up just with a phone call. I am super all for the beach and taking care of it. I actually live right on Beach Drive, and I was wondering, during the winter and the fall, it's very quiet, but in the summertime, it gets very busy. And I was wondering if we could ask the county to put a slow down sign on Beach Drive, or if maybe, folks don't want that, but, I mean, they really speed by. So I was wondering about that, because there are a lot of little kids and I was actually witness to one who was coming up Cree, and a zooming car went by, and she actually fell on her bike on the corner, and it just, it concerns me how fast they're going. And if we could just put a reminder, slow children at play somewhere along there, maybe like where there is a street sign, so it's not an eyesore or whatever. Is that,
The county just,
yeah.
the county doesn't do signs within our
Oh,
community.
Okay,
We do.
okay, I didn't
So it's a good
realize.
suggestion. So we'll look at, and could you get in touch with Rhea
I
and
sure can.
tell her where you think it,
Yeah. I mean, maybe I'm not the one that makes that decision, you know, other people
that would
can
be
chime in,
wonderful.
but.
Yeah, but you're the one that saw the kid off the
Yeah.
top floor, so that's all.
Okay. Yeah, okay, thank you.
and also, you know, if you do, again, and the same thing applies surely on the beach.
Yes.
If you see it, I don't know if people realize it, the Maryland maritime law forbids personal watercraft from going over the 6-knot speed limit within 100 feet of
I am aware of that.
property.
Yes.
Okay, so call DNR police.
Yes.
Even if they can't get there in time, they have to log the call.
I started taking videos
Yeah, but call
because
DNR
I'm
police.
tired of it.
Yeah, call DNR police, and that
Okay.
applies to any of you. If you have waterfront property or anything, and you're being plagued with people not paying attention to their wake or whatever, call DNR police. They have to log every one of those calls. And the more they see of that, then they'll start to patrol or to watch the area. But same thing with, on the roads. If you see something, call the sheriff. If you see something which is dangerous
Yeah,
or illegal, call the sheriff. We can't respond quick enough ourselves.
right.
And then I just have one more question, and that's
Yeah.
about fireworks. So last year, there were lots of fireworks on Stark Street. I live really close there. And we lost an osprey. One of the babies fell off that, well, or dove off that nest that night because there were fireworks right on that. So what is the rule?
It's illegal.
Okay, that's what I thought. So I'm gonna go there. There are 3 chicks in that nest now.
Yeah, so there again, I mean, there's not anything we can really do.
Okay, I
We
was
don't
just
have-
curious if it was because it was private property or, you know, yeah, that's what I thought, okay.
No, if you see something that looks like it's dangerous, call the sheriff.
I
And if
shall.
it doesn't rain soon, it'll also be a very great
Yeah.
fire.
Indeed, indeed.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you.
A missing stop sign, we reported to Rhea, you said?
Yeah.
Okay, because someone took the stop sign away from the end of Station and Vista Lane.
Okay.
It was there, now it's gone.
Yeah, call, just tell Rhea, you know, where it is and what it was, and we'll get our maintenance guys to replace it.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, that happened to, on our street, right near my house, a stop sign and, street sign was gone, but it's been replaced, so it takes a little while, but it happens.
yeah, it depends, I mean, if we have the sign and, if we have a stock of some signs, and if we have stock, we can replace it pretty quick.
Sometimes we have to get permission to leave.
Well, yeah, I mean, if we have to replace the whole pole, then you gotta get Mr.
There's no pole, there's nothing, it's all gone. I said, they took the pole and the sign.
So Charles Road Chalk, stop here.
You know, actually, if stop signs keep getting stolen, what about just painting big white letters, "Stop," on the street with a big white line? Traffic laws, it's the same thing.
Yes.
Can I have
Yeah.
Yeah.
White lines?
clarification on golf carts?
Oh,
Golf carts are unlicensed vehicles that cannot operate on public roads. Our roads are private roads for public use. Therefore, golf carts should not be on our roads.
All right, so they have multiplied this summer.
They do that, don't they?
And it's very scary because I'm seeing younger kids driving them as opposed to adults. I don't care about golf carts really, but they don't seem to be following any kind of, can we do something on our website about golf cart etiquette or remind people they're illegal or
They have to
something?
obey the same
Well, they're gonna have
vehicle
to
laws, we
do
got
the
called the
same.
sheriff's department to ask. They have to maintain and operate, if they are on the roadway, They should have headlights, brake lights, and operated by a licensed vehicle operator.
And they're not licensed, so how can they be?
But
You
They're
got
not
little
They
licensed.
should have, but the operator of the
Has to
car
have a license.
has to have a license, has to have a driver's license.
But the vehicle itself has to be registered.
They didn't
All they
tell me
do is
that.
go on
They
the
told me
public
that they had to have brake lights and headlights, and that they had to be operated by a licensed operator. And that
Well,
was,
they
and
would
that if
say-
you saw them operating in an unsafe manner, to call the sheriff's department.
The children shouldn't be driving them in anything.
They do it all the time.
Rhea, could you, oh, did you get her count?
I did. Oh, I didn't, it's all unanimous. I did, and there are
No.
21 out there.
No, votes.
No votes. It's all- And I don't, there were no nays here, were there? Or-
No.
Okay.
Or
so
were there
did you-
abstentions?
Yeah.
Abstentions? Abstentions?
I don't think so.
I don't know.
Okay,
Just a quick follow-up on a
Well,
sign.
Well, just,
just a second before you do
I'm
that.
sorry.
you asked about, were you going to ask me about?
Yeah, there seem to be maybe a few different ideas on what the rules are about golf carts.
Well-
Could you get ahold of the sheriff,
Mhm.
if you have to, send them something in writing,
Yeah.
and ask them for the laws pertaining to golf carts, age of operators, licensing, operation, and let's publish that.
Yeah, I can put it on the website, and I can send a community email.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Yeah, but I would say that people, it's been in the newsletter before, I'm pretty sure, about not operating on the roads or public, whatever, privately maintained for public use. People are gonna do what they're gonna do. And if the sheriff's deputies won't come out and actually issue a ticket, that would stop a lot of it, wouldn't it? If in fact we're gonna get a ticket. So-
Again,
But I can certainly do this.
let's do that, and then use that as a guide. Call the sheriff, and if you have to, just keep calling. I mean,
Yeah.
they have to do they're supposed to do their job.
I'm just gonna follow that. I'm sorry to get your name, the shoreline problem with the wakes, and also what the gentleman just brought up about unlicensed vehicles. Do we have signs posted as into the, can we post something like that? Wouldn't help her so much. But a shoreline sign saying no wake or watch your wake, is that part of the John Point's responsibility?
If it's out in the bay, it would be, that's really the state. I've got something going on in our code right now with the state to assess the speed limit in the code. You can put up your own sign, like on your property, if your property is being impacted. You can put up your own signs, or you can request that they put up a sign that says, you're responsible for your weight. But we don't really have any jurisdiction over that, so.
Yeah, these things like unlicensed vehicles and so forth.
Well, that's why I want to find out what the exact rules are, publish that, give people a guide on what to go by, and then, we can follow it
No,
up.
like a big, like, usually you're used to seeing no hunting, for example, in the development, or whatever. But unlicensed vehicles, Gail and I have a 2-lot property, one of which is a wood, and we have people dumping there all the time. So that's like, we're gonna take it upon ourselves to put a please no dumping sign.
Oh, I would leave out the please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just like private property, so that it's not just a public lot.
Picture of a gun and it says no dumping.
But with another great sign I saw recently, this lot is not a bank, don't make a deposit.
That's a good one.
Okay, any other discussion or? Okay, well, we're adjourned.